Welcome to Streaming with Two Dudes, a podcast about all things streaming. Each episode, we break down some of the best series, songs, movies, and shows. I'm one dude, Parker.
I'm the other dude, Jeff.
And dudes, this month our theme is Happy Holidays, and this episode we are talking about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. But first, Jeff, what else have you been streaming?
Well, this may come as a surprise. Streamed a couple more Christmas movies.
That's not too much of a surprise.
This I'm not sure if you would have liked this one or not. You're hard to read when it comes to anything that involves romance. So,
This
but
is true.
anyway,
This
the
is
name
true.
of it was Last Christmas.
Mhm.
Are you a fan of George Michael?
The singer?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I like George Michael. I like a
So,
little
like,
faith. I have a little
what-
faith.
Okay.
You're singing it in
Woo!
your head. I can see you singing. He's over there for y'all listening. He's over there nodding his head. I can hear. I can visually see him singing it in his head. He wants to sing it out loud. I know he does. But it stars. Does it stars George Michael?
It does not, but pretty much the movie is inspired or based on like all of his music and songs.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, primarily the song "Last Christmas."
Yeah.
But it's another one of those. It wasn't a Hallmark movie. I watched it on Amazon. Now
Okay.
I had to rent it. So I don't know who actually done the movie as far as if it was. I assume it wasn't like a streaming service or anything like that. But it of course there's a lot of you can't do a Christmas movie without there being some similarities or
Yeah.
some
The
repetitive.
tropes.
Yeah, but it was different. I mean, I thought it was very well done. The main actress has a lot of issues in life, which is obviously typical of any kind of Hallmark movie where everything's puppy toes and rainbows type deal. But it was pretty good. I actually kind of liked it. It seems like this year I've watched far less Hallmark movies and have kind of ventured off to do some of the different ones just to kind of break up the monotony a little bit. And
I think I've helped you a little bit there.
But I would definitely recommend this one. I mean, it's not going to crack your top 10 list, but like I said, George Michael's music's heavily featured in it.
Now, is it
And,
just is it just George Michael like Christmas songs, or is it
it's pretty much all of his stuff.
okay?
But yeah, the basic premise is, I mean, you have a young girl, and like I said, she has an older sister who's like kind of made all the right decisions in life, and she's made a lot of poor choices. And she also had, I don't remember now exactly what caused it, but she had to have a heart transplant.
Okay.
And her mom's got a lot of issues. I mean, kind of just a very dysfunctional family. But there is a love interest involved, but it's not the traditional relationship or the love story, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
So I'll leave it at that, so I don't give away too much for anybody that does want to check it out. But
I think the aspect of the George Michael songs is enough to like intrigue me to probably actually get me to watch it. So it's on Amazon.
I mean, I had to rent it from Amazon.
Oh, okay.
But $2-3 or whatever, $4 at the most. I don't think I found it streaming for free anywhere.
Okay.
But not to say it isn't. You might have some streaming services I don't, but yeah. What about you? What you streaming lately?
I am streaming a series called. It was like a limited series. It's one of the like investigative documentaries that Netflix has been doing. It's called "Don't Pick Up the Phone," and this movie or this series was insane. Like I haven't been so intrigued by something that was so crazy. This person. So what? I mean, I won't go into it too much and like give it all away, but I mean, you have to know this much of it, like to even really kind of know what's going on. But the story unfolds of this person was calling these different restaurants in the mid to late like 2000s and was pretending to be a police officer and describing different employee, like an employee that was working there, just kind of give like basic description, and would have them pull them into the office and make them perform like strip searches on employees. And it was just like this person like faking this phone calls, and it goes through the, you know, like like people that have happened. Like this happened like I forgot how many times, but it was close to 100, if not more. And um, it basically just like shows these two detectives where it happened in their, in their local precincts, and they're the only two that are really taking it seriously and trying to track down who's actually making these phone calls, because everybody's just kind of blaming everybody else except for the caller, and they're not actually trying to track them down. So it's super interesting, super crazy. It's super intriguing. Uh, very like it's keeps you on the edge of your seat the whole time, and man, I don't know. Sometimes in those documentaries they can get kind of boring, but this one, it was not the entire time, and the two detectives were great, like just awesome characters in general. Anyways, so yeah, don't pick up the phone. It is on Netflix. If it will say a trigger warning. If sexual assault or anything like that, if you have problems with that, stay away from it for sure. But if you can stomach that um kind of stuff, and the investigation kind of thing like that, and just understanding the mindset of trying to understand the mindset of like people that would do things like that, it's very, very interesting to watch. So recommend that.
Cool. Speaking of Netflix, I actually saw a clip show up on my social media feed today of a show you've talked about recently on Netflix called Wednesday. And I really enjoyed the clip because it showed Wednesday like using kung fu to take out three guys. And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
wait a second. I didn't know that show was gonna have anything like that. So now I like really want to watch it.
Yeah, it's
And
definitely not what you would think. It's very interesting.
and see that might actually help me because I've never considered myself like a big Adams Family fan. I mean, yeah, I
Yeah.
watched the show some when I was younger, but I've
Did you ever
never.
watch the movies from the 90s with like Christina Ricci as Wednesday?
I'm sure I saw it once,
Oh
but
man, those are
but
so
I
good.
I don't remember much about them. I mean, I remember the characters and stuff, but I never really considered myself a huge fan.
Yeah.
I guess I remember the show a lot more than I do the movies.
'Cause see, I
Uh,
was a kid when the movies came out, so I loved them and I grew up with them. So like, I mean, I still watch them. Like, they're still like the humor in them, especially the second one, Adam's Family Values. Like, I love that movie so much. It's great. But yeah, you should definitely check out Wednesday, man. I definitely recommend it, especially for you. I feel like that's definitely your kind of show for sure. Like, it's not only is it just very, very much like a Riverdale type show, but like yeah, it's totally Jeff. You'll like it for sure. Um, so Jeff, this week we watched National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It was recommended. This is our listener choice episode, recommended by my good friend Summer. She was the first one to recommend it. It won the listener's choice. I originally think that Die Hard was actually the winner, but we couldn't find that on anything streaming. So yippee motherfuckers, we have to watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and not a bad runner up to take its place. So Jeff, what can you tell me about this movie?
I guess it just proves that second place isn't always the first loser.
No.
So a lot of interesting stuff about this movie, which, any movie that's considered a classic, especially that's been out, more than 20, 30 years, there's just all kinds of good info to find out there. I'm sure I didn't even scratch the surface of, all the info and just interesting tidbits and trivia that's out there. But what I'll do is I'll jumpstart it with a little bit, and then I'll probably like comment on certain scenes that you may bring up in your recap, if there's any interesting things about any of those scenes, and then maybe towards the end, anything I wasn't able to fit in, I'll kind of squeeze in there as well. But National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, it was the third installment in the National Lampoon Vacation film series. You had Lampoon Vacation, you had the European Vacation, and then this one with the Christmas Vacation. It
Did you watch
was
the did you are you like a big fan of the vacation movies in general?
I wouldn't say I'm a big fan though. I mean, I've definitely seen the Christmas Vacation one more than the other ones.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw the first one. I'm not sure about European Vacation, and I'm not
Yeah,
sure
see,
about
I know I've seen the first one numerous times. Not as many times as I've seen Christmas Vacation, but the European, I don't think I've ever seen European Vacation. And Vegas Vacation, which came out whenever I was younger, I've seen that one a couple of times, but it wasn't I don't remember it being very good.
yeah.
Even when I was a kid, I was like, "This one's not as good as the other ones," and I
Was
was
that
like 12 or 13.
was that one the fourth or the fifth one? I think there's been five.
I think the 5th okay, so there's a 5th one, and that one is technically like a
Is it a remake?
spin-off. It's like yeah, it's like
Okay,
a remake, but it's like a remake/reboot slash reboot type situation where Rusty is taking his family on a on the original, like, road trip vacation, like, from the original film.
gotcha.
Um, so it's kind of yeah, it's kind of like a reboot sequel type situation.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, this particular one was written and co-produced by a gentleman that any person that loves movies or familiar with movies would know. Gentleman by the name of John Hughes,
Mhm.
which numerous classics in the 80s and 90s, whether it was Home Alone, 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Mr. Mom, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And this movie was actually adapted from a short story that John Hughes wrote for the National Lampoon magazine called Christmas 59, which was published in 1980.
Huh.
As far as the actors and stuff, I mean, it's an all-star cast. I mean, of course, you had Chevy Chase, who was in all five of the vacation films. Also a prominent figure on Saturday Night Live, in more movies than we could possibly even discuss during his career. You had Beverly D'Angelo, who played Ellen. Of course, Chevy Chase played Clark. She was in obviously numerous things throughout her career. As far as the children, Juliette Lewis, who played Audrey, this was actually her first major film role.
Yeah,
So obviously, she went on to have a career that's still
huge
ongoing
career.
now. Rusty, who was played by Johnny Galecki,
Mhm.
who most people will know recently on Big Bang Theory, Roseanne, the original and the reboot. Interesting though, Leonardo DiCaprio was in the running for the role of Rusty,
Really?
but the casting director just said he just simply wasn't goofy enough.
I could see
So
that.
yeah, he tends to do the more serious stuff a little better. Of course, Randy Quaid with cousin Eddie. Unfortunately, he's more well known, not so much for his career lately, but all the legal trouble
Yeah.
he's been in the last 5 years or
I think
so.
he probably was not acting in this film at all. I think he just
Yeah.
actually is cut his cousin Eddie.
And then, I mean, the list just keeps going. I mean, even the smaller roles, whether it's Doris Roberts, I mean, Julia Louis Dreyfus. I
Mhm.
mean, this movie was just loaded with all-star cast. Some that were already well established, and some that were kind of at the beginning of their outstanding career. One little interesting tidbit. I don't know if you have ever noticed this or knew about it, but for this third Lampoon movie, they changed the spelling of Griswold.
Did they?
In the first two films, Griswold was spelled with an A at the end, Wald. For this one, it's spelled Wold at the end. So, and I
Huh.
researched and researched. Maybe it's out there. I could not uncover a reasoning or an explanation for why they changed the spelling.
I wonder if
Um,
somebody just didn't like, if somebody just didn't pay attention to it, like, maybe they didn't do it purposefully?
I don't know. I just the only information I could find is that they changed the spelling on the third movie, and so I assume maybe the rest of them kept the O. I don't remember that part, but yeah, I just thought that was interesting, and like I said, I could not find a single comment, explanation, reasoning, or anything. So couple of other tidbits,
Real quick before you
sure.
just I want to just comment real quick on the casting. The woman who played Aunt Bethany Griswold,
Hmm.
she was the older senile lady, the one that was kind of, just never making sense. She kind of came in at
Oh
the
yeah,
end with William Hickey's character, Uncle Lewis.
she,
Um
she wrapped her own stuff as Christmas
yeah,
presents and her
yeah,
cat.
her name is May May Questel. And I don't know if you know this, but she was actually like really big voice actress. And I don't know if you could probably notice this if you go back and watch it, like knowing this, but she was the voice of Betty Boop.
Huh? How about that? I did not know
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
That's cool. Another
Yeah.
interesting tidbit is, I mean, people that are fans of the vacation films obviously have realized and noticed this, but they always change the actors for the kids,
Hmm.
for Rusty and Audrey. So, of course, it's the third movie, so this was the third set of different actors to play those two roles. Obviously, Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo. I mean, they stayed the same. The parts that cousin Eddie were in stayed the same, but they always changed the kids, which was always just kind of a vacation thing, I guess. That's just kind of
Yeah.
what they were known for. As far as some tie back to some, the previous or future films, the navy blue Chicago Bears hat you see Clark wearing in a number of scenes is the same hat he wore in the previous vacation movies, European Vacation and just Vacation. Johnny Galecki actually, at some point later on, said he elected not to shoot a scene with Chevy Chase where the two become emotional when speaking to each other, because he figured the scene wouldn't make it in the final product anyway.
Yeah.
To this day, he kicks himself for not doing the scene, just because he just would, I guess, curious what it would have came out and if it would have been a memorable scene. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
one of those movies where even if you're not a huge fan of the movie, you remember and probably enjoy several scenes.
Right.
I mean, it's just one of those movies where it's just a collection of memorable scenes kind of pieced together. So he was really upset with himself that he didn't at least decide to shoot the scene anyway, just in case it did make the final cut. Um, a couple of these I'll go over because I doubt they make it in your recap just because they weren't like huge scenes or anything. But there is a quick snippet where Rusty is seen watching "It's a Wonderful Life"
Hmm.
on TV. That
It's funny you
movie,
mentioned that because like you pointed that out, and whenever I was watching that, I was like, if I ever make a Christmas movie, I'm gonna make a Christmas movie like in one of the scenes, somebody's gonna be watching that scene, like any kind of Christmas movie, because that's a trope. Like I don't know, it feels like every time I see a Christmas, like if you're watching a Christmas movie in the past like 20 years, 20, 30 years, maybe even longer, maybe even 40 years, it seems like every single one of them, they're watching a previous Christmas film. So I think it would be
yeah.
so funny to have a Christmas film like where they're watching somebody watching another Christmas movie. Like if I was watching the scene, like if I was in the Christmas movie and I was watching the scene where Rusty was watching It's a Wonderful Life, it just keep going on, just deeper and deeper.
Well,
Uh
actually, in this case, it had a deeper meaning because "It's a Wonderful Life" was directed by a gentleman named Frank Capra. Hope I'm Capra. I'm not sure how to pronounce that exactly.
I think
Well,
you're right the first
Frank's
time.
Frank's grandson, Frank Capra III, was the assistant director for Christmas Vacation. So
Hmm.
that had direct ties to his grandfather, who directed that movie. So that was we've had a few movies where there was a neat little tie-in of a character watching a movie that
Yeah.
had some kind of deeper meaning or connection to either an actor or a director or something like that. So some of those things you would never know probably without actually, doing the research on it.
Right.
Another little tidbit that where they actually worked hard to tie in with the previous movies was when Clark found out that cousin Eddie had been out of work for 7 years. That actually lines up with the movie Vacation when we see Eddie lose his job at the asbestos factory. So they actually kept the timeline in sync. So he'd been out of work that whole time.
That's funny. Was it 7 years in between the films, like, when the films were released, or was it
I'm guessing
because
the way I interpret it is it fell in line with whatever the time frame was in the movie.
Gotcha. Because I remember I don't know, I thought the kids were closer to the same age between these 2, like, between the first and the third one. Because I can't remember like I said, I can't remember European Vacation. I don't even know if I've watched it, but I just don't remember, like, Rusty. If Rusty would have been 7 years younger, he would have been, like, 4 or 5, wouldn't he? I don't remember him being that young. But, I mean, maybe it was just, like, a joke, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe Vacation and Christmas Vacation were 7 years apart,
Yeah.
and so maybe that was just the part of their joke, kind of like how they just never change the kids. Like, the kids are ageless.
Yeah. They they definitely don't, they definitely kind of set up their own rules that they're going to follow throughout
Yeah,
this
they definitely
series,
do.
which is good when movies do that. So, um, but yeah, that's the main things. Like I said, I'll point out a few other things as you're doing your recap, and maybe a couple things there at the end.
Alright.
So
Alright.
let's see how
You wanna
you do this week.
you wanna get into it? This one's like, so I feel pressure on this one because I know, like, everybody's seen this film, so everybody's gonna be giving me, like, grading me as they listen to this. Um, so I do feel a little bit of pressure, but I will say that
Well, if
I'm
it,
not expecting myself to do great on this one because this really doesn't have, like, a plot. Like, I mean, I guess you could say, like, the Christmas bonus is, like, the overarching plot, but as far as, like, outside of that, like, so many things happen that don't pertain to that, like,
that's
it's
what I was
really
saying earlier.
hard.
It's like a collection of scenes more
Yeah,
than
it
it
really is.
is.
I mean, I mean, you can kinda tell that it's somebody that comes from, like, a skit background, like Chevy Chase, like, coming from Saturday Night Live, 'cause that's really what it feels like. It feels like a collection of skits just performed by the same, like, actors and family the whole time. Um, but, I mean, not a bad thing. But let's get into it. So we start out with one of these. They don't really do these anymore, these little openings that, like a cartoon, opening credits where they do, like, this 2 to 3 minute animation over the full song. I remember this being pretty popular around this time, like, I always think of City Slickers whenever I think of those. I don't really think of this one very often, but City Slickers is, like, the one that I always think about. Do you remember, like, these, like, being a thing
Yeah, I mean,
for a
it
little while?
definitely. Yeah, like you said, you definitely don't see it near as much now. But it's like most things in Hollywood. There's trends
Yeah.
that are very similar, and they kind of just kind of come and go.
Yeah, it was like a thing in front of comedy movies for a little while, like, that were, like, aged at, like, middle-aged people. Um, so when we actually open up with the film, we got the Griswolds. They are riding in a car, they're on their way to go get a Christmas tree. They get in a little altercation with these 2, redneck-looking dudes in a truck, and they go back and forth. Eventually, they end up under an 18-wheelers. When they get out from underneath it, they almost hit a, I'm not sure what that was exactly. It looked like some kind of, like, snowplow maybe, um, some kind of, like, construction equipment. Anyways, they avoid it, so they hit a pile of snow and go launched into the air, and they basically land in the parking lot of the place to get Christmas trees, and instead of going to buy one, they go out into the woods and walk for miles and miles and miles, and they finally found the perfect one, and Clark forgets a saw, so they drive home with a full tree, roots and all, on top of the car. Uh, um, that was pretty great.
Yeah, definitely a good start.
Yeah, they get the tree home. It's a little tall. He cuts off the bottom. The neighbors see him. They, make comments. You can kinda tell that they have a little troubled relationship. Clark gets the tree inside. He, um, releases it. It's bigger than they expected. It's breaking windows. Uh, Clark gets covered in sap. And later on in the bed, he's trying to read magazines and the pages are sticking to his fingers. He's turning off lights and the lamp sticking to his hand. Um,
All right, so in the scene where he's looking at People magazine,
mhm.
the person on the front cover of that People magazine is Jeremiah Chekic, who was the director of Christmas Vacation.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So a little sneak in there for the director.
And so this movie is told through an advent calendar, which I thought was pretty cool. I really actually like that framing, how they do the advent calendars until you kind of like so you can kind of keep up with like what day it is. I
Mhm.
really like that because it always, especially around Christmas movies, like if they're not set like on a specific day, you can never really kind of, you know what I mean? Like unless they're set on like Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, like it's never, you never really know when they're set. So I really appreciated the way they did that. On the first day, they go buy Christmas presents and they're at like a mall. Clark is shopping for his wife and he starts flirting with what's what's the word for that?
Lingerie.
Yeah, but like what's he starts flirting with like what's the woman, what would be the woman that would sell the lingerie? The saleswoman, like what's her name? Like what
Yeah,
would that be called? I guess just a saleswoman.
yeah,
But I think
lingerie
that
saleswoman.
lingerie saleswoman.
Yeah,
I feel like there should be a different word for that. Um, so
he wasn't flirting. He was just really trying to get a good gift for his wife.
yeah, okay. His divorced wife, the wife is he divorced. Um, and then his son comes up and pretty much busts him. Then both sets of parents are coming. They both arrive and it's, starts to become chaos in the Griswold household. They find, the kids have to share a room so that the parents will have somewhere to sleep, and they're not happy about it. No one's really happy about this whole situation, but everybody is, sucking it up because it's their family. I'm not sure exactly this happens exactly now, but Clark goes to work and he's talking to a coworker and they're asking about their bonus checks. And he's like, Clark's like, I've already put down a $7,500 deposit on a pool for my family. So they're talking up this bonus check, and they're just all excited about it. Clark's already spent his money, and then later on that night, he is him and Rusty start to put up the Christmas lights. He has 25,000 lights that he's putting up. Uh, when he first starts putting them up, he staples himself to the roof and falls off the ladder. And then he falls off the roof and finally gets them all put up and they don't work. He's a little distraught and he tries again the next day, finally figures out that it's caused by a switch and the lights are super bright and they have to get backup power from the nuclear plants. And while the lights are on, cousin Eddie shows up and with his family in the RV unexpectedly and announces that they will be staying for or till the next month. Clark, talks to
So actually, in the scene where he's just getting angry and frustrated over the Christmas lights not working,
Mhm.
I read where he actually broke his finger at some point filming that scene.
Oh, probably. I bet it was when he hit the Santa Claus, like when he punched
Uh,
the Santa Claus.
what I read didn't say exactly, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
That because that was
Um,
I mean, he hit that thing pretty hard, and so
yeah,
I'm
there,
wondering if that was
yeah, there was a lot of physical comedy, for that 5-10 minute stretch. So there could have been a
yeah.
lot of different areas where he could have broke it, but you may carry on.
All right. Um. So so cousin Eddie is there, and you know what? I totally skipped this part. Uh, the family. now that the parents are there, they decide to go shopping, and Clark goes up into the attic to hide some presents and gets shut up in the attic, and he has to spend a couple of hours in there while everybody else is shopping. And he fell through the roof at the ceiling at one point, and then he stays up there. And I was wondering, like, why did he not just climb down once he already busted through the ceiling? I mean, he could just climb down onto the bunk bed and get out of there. Um, but he didn't. Um, so anyways, back to Cousin Eddie. Cousin Eddie's gonna be there for a while. Um, they go sledding. Clark has some basically like food lubricant to like like stuff like your Pam spray or whatever to keep your food from sticking to your stuff. But he says it's like slicker than anything else on the market. He sprays it on the bottom of the sled, and he goes down the mountain at Mach speeds, and then ends up in a Walmart parking lot donation booth. Um, Clark has a little talk with with Eddie's daughter Ruby, and kind of decides that between him and what's Beverly and D'Angelo's name? Ellen.
Ellen.
Ellen. So Clark and Ellen decide that they're gonna try to buy Christmas presents for Eddie's kids because they're not gonna have anything. So Clark takes Eddie shopping and gets the kids stuff. I think after that, um, I think after that it's Christmas Eve. That's when Bethany and Lewis show up, and they're a little old and senile, but Lewis seems like he's got a little bit more together, but not too much more together.
I read there was actually an earthquake during the scene when Uncle Lewis and Aunt Bethany arrive and visit the Griswold.
Really,
Yep.
that's funny. Um, Lewis winds up setting the tree on fire because the dog has drank up all the water and the tree's too dry. Clark kind of goes a little nuts, goes outside and gets a tree from outside, cuts one down, brings it inside. They hear squeaking coming from in the tree, and it's a squirrel, and it gets loose, and everybody's freaking out. And Clark kind of breaks down, and he's freaking out. And then they start cleaning up, and somebody arrives with an envelope, and it's Clark's Christmas bonus. He gets all excited. He tells everybody all the money that he spent, what he spent it on, gets everybody excited, and he opens it up. And what does he get, Jeff? He gets Jelly of the Month Club.
Woo, woo.
Gifts that keeps on giving. So he's not too excited about this. He's freaking out, and basically he's like, you know what I want for Christmas? I want somebody to bring my boss in here so I can, basically kick his ass. Cousin Eddie takes his word on this and leaves. Goes and kidnaps Mr. Shirley, brings him back with a bow on him after, kind of freaks out at first, but basically, tells him why he is so upset. Clark's boss understands, and he realizes, like, hey, like these are actual people that I'm screwing over. And so not only are they getting their Christmas bonuses, but they're getting 20% more. The SWAT team arrives, and they let them know that nothing's, they're not pressing charges. It was all big misunderstanding. The Griswolds, the whole family, his boss, and the SWAT team, they're all out in the front yard from where Cousin Eddie emptied his shitter into the drain. The gas has built up, and Uncle Lewis lights a match, blows up the sewer, causing the Santa Claus and the reindeer that were in the Griswold's yard to go sailing across the sky, causing everybody to start singing the Star Spangled Banner. And the end.
It makes me wonder now. Have you seen the TikTok trend where it usually involves a guy or girl having their boyfriend or girlfriend over to like a family dinner or outing for like the first time, and like before they begin dinner, uh, everybody stands up and starts saying the Pledge of Allegiance. just to get the reaction of the boyfriend or the girlfriend. I'm starting to wonder now if that was inspired by the Christmas Vacation movie because of
That's
the
hilarious.
crazy aunt. But yeah, I'll give you which I mean, you're pretty lucky because I have a horrible memory anyway. Plus, like we said, this movie is like one of those, even if you forget important scenes, you mean you didn't hurt the plot any. So I'll give you a solid B plus.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. All right.
Um, couple interesting tidbits that I didn't squeeze in, which I don't know if this is interesting. I guess when I read it, I was like, huh. But then when I saw the movie again, I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty obvious. But for some reason, I found it surprising when I first read it. But the woman that Clark fantasizes about in his pool is the lingerie saleswoman he
Oh yeah.
encountered at the mall. I'm not sure why when I read that, I was like, really? But then when I watched it, I was like, because it's been years since I've actually watched the movie start to finish.
Yeah.
Um, I was like, well, yeah, I don't even think they were trying to hide that or
No, I
make
don't
it
think it was an Easter
interesting.
egg. Yeah, just
Yeah,
like kind of
so
like how kind of like in the I don't remember, I know you don't remember it, but in the original Vacation, there was like this woman. I don't know what it is about Clark and his wandering eye. Like he is so determined to cheat on his wonderful wife. Like Beverly D'Angelo's hot. In every movie, though, it seems like he's got some woman that he's always like into and fantasizing about. But um, yeah, he had like another woman that he did the same thing that in the first one that I remember where like he saw her like on the road driving a car, and then he saw her like in the pool skinny dipping, and yeah. Um,
well, speaking of Beverly D'Angelo, the scene where the SWAT barge in and yell freeze. Do you remember Ellen's position?
yeah,
She
where
had to
she was
freeze
grabbing
in.
his crotch.
Yeah, that was totally improvised. That was not planned. She improvised it in one take, and I'm sure Chevy Chase didn't mind, but
I bet they were busting out laughing behind the
so
scenes.
I just think that's crazy. That to me, that was the funniest part of that entire sequence, and
Yeah.
it wasn't even scripted at all.
Well, she did great.
So
She's a genius.
that was pretty good. And one little, all movies had a, if you read about them or you locate them yourself, they always have like a little oops here and there. So during one of Clark's just like tantrums, uh, that kind of loose post at the top of the staircase,
Mhm.
he decides just to cut it off, with the chainsaw and said, "All
Yeah.
right, fixed it." Uh, so after he's already cut the top of that post off, when the family is running up the staircase because of the squirrel,
Yeah.
that post is back on. so so obviously they filmed that before the other one, but so just one little oops there.
Huh.
And for this to be a Christmas movie, you kind of alluded to it somewhat, but the movie never makes it to Christmas Day.
No.
It ends on Christmas Eve, so it's a little bit different. Most Christmas movies you normally see Christmas Day one way or the other, but not the case in this one. That's all I got.
All right. Well, Jeff, what did you think of this one? We're gonna. Or is it my turn? I guess it is my turn because you made me last time. You made me go first, and I remember not. Um. All right. So out of full shitters, how many how many do you give this, and why?
So we've encountered this a few times on our podcast, and to me, it could be difficult to judge a movie well when it's got some age on it, as well as when you feel like you've either seen it so many times or you've seen so many of the scenes several times, like over and over and over. So, I feel like whether it's the 10th time or the 12th time or the 20th time, it's hard to appreciate it or enjoy it as much as the first few times.
Yeah.
So I was trying to grade it based on that because part of me wanted to go as low as a 3. Even though I'm sure if I were to have graded it like after the first couple of times I watched it, especially during the 80s, I probably would have easily gave it a 4. So I'm going to land on a solid 3.5.
Okay.
It's still a great movie. There's just a lot of funny stuff going on. We talked about it earlier. There's just so many memorable scenes, just a lot of funny stuff happening. For me personally, I'm not one that generally watches a movie several times. This just happens to be one that, although I probably haven't watched it start to finish, maybe but three or four, a lot of those scenes I probably have seen 10, 15, 20 times.
Right.
And after a while, it just, you don't find it quite as funny, not because it's not any less funny. It's just, you're just not going to laugh as hard, or you're probably just not going to appreciate it as much. But overall, like I said, I still think it's a solid 3.5. I'm sure I'll watch it again at some point down the road, or whether I'm flipping through something and want to watch a scene or two, whatever. But it's still going to remain a classic. I don't see anything changing that. It's still not going to crack like my top 10 Christmas movie list, but still a solid choice. What about you?
Actually, I'm almost gonna repeat almost everything you've said. And the score exactly where I was going to land because, that's kind of how I feel about it. I've seen this movie so many times that I couldn't it's hard to remember how I felt about it the first time I saw it. And I was so young that, what I'm saying? Like, I've grown up with this movie, so I feel like I've appreciated different things about it every time that I've watched it. And I don't know, like, my baseline for if I'm going to recommend a film based on the genre is a 2.5. Like that's yeah, it hits the genre. If you like Christmas movies, this is what you should watch. So it's definitely better than your average Christmas movie. It's not I have fun watching this. It's not something that I would probably watch every single year, but if somebody wants to watch it every single year, I won't be mad about it. It's one of those type of films. Um, so yeah, I'm right with there with you, man. 3.5. It's not every scene makes me laugh. In fact, some of the stuff, honestly with most of the stuff with like Cousin Eddie and all that, like that gets kind of boring. Like they're in the repetitiveness of it, but I found, humor in his daughter, like the conversation that he had with like that Clark had with Ruby. Like I found that probably funnier than any other time I've ever watched it. This time I've watched it. So
I mean,
um
and it was a sweet moment
yeah, and it was really endearing
because
for
and there
Clark,
wasn't a lot of those in the movie. So
especially for Clark cuz he's kind of an asshole the whole movie.
yeah,
Um
which does make you wonder if the scene Johnny Galecki was talking about would it have had a good chance to make the cut, since they did include, the one, with
yeah.
his niece.
Or maybe they just replaced it
That's
since he
possible too.
since he refused to do it. They just replaced it with they
Yeah.
just wrote in the one with the girl. But yeah, man, I love this movie. It's if you haven't watched this movie, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, I feel like you just kind of have to because I mean it's just got so many classic quotes. Just based on that alone, it's at least worth one watch. Um, yeah, so I give this 3.5 full shitters, which gives us an you know average of 3.5 shitters. So I'm not gonna say that again. We That's definitely our highest rated Christmas film. So we definitely broke the 3 point range. So thank y'all for showing us the light and putting that star atop of our Christmas tree this year because we did not do it ourselves. We disappointed each other very much so. So yeah.
Yeah. It's probably good we saved the safe bet for the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I mean this one will be released on Christmas Day. So well maybe Christmas Day. I don't know. Maybe Christmas Eve if I'm feeling festive enough to get it done before then. So we uh will not be doing another episode. Sorry about that. Just due to scheduling, we were not able to make this episode in time to release it on the day that we wanted. So this will be released s- Christmas Day at the latest. If you're hearing this before Christmas Day, that means that I had some extra free time and was feeling like I wanted to release an episode earlier than, than Christmas Day. So
So
yeah,
do you got a dude or dud for
I
us?
do, I do. My dude of the week is going to be Ellen. She is a great wife and a great mom, and she is hilarious. I wish I could have seen more of her, um, because how she puts up with what she has to deal with her in her family, like that woman's a saint, and she handles it well. So definitely going with Ella. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, just to comment on what you were saying about Ellen, as dysfunctional and as many issues as Clark has, they still have a very loving family.
Hmm.
You see that, which is kind of plays the true life in a lot of ways, because
Yeah.
a lot of families have their issues or dysfunctional in their own way, but yet they still have those moments. Like especially when the Christmas lights finally get working.
Hmm.
He shares that. His kids are hugging him, so you still see those moments to where they're still a nice, loving family. They still have their sweet moments and that kind of stuff. Having said all that, I'm gonna go with a dud,
All right.
and it's gonna be cousin Eddie.
Yeah.
I, those type of people, and I'm talking about his character. Obviously, Randy Quaid did a great job um, with the part, but man, it's those type of characters, man, in real life that just rub me the wrong way because I'm more of a just shoot me straight type of person.
Yeah.
I can't stand when people like always say or do things with a hidden agenda, or
Manipulation. Yeah.
that, or just just drop trying to drop hints. And his plan all along was for Clark and Ellen to buy Christmas for his kids. It's
Yeah.
just he knew how that was going to play out, and just I mean, yeah, just all his little antics, man. Those type of people that, like in real life, just absolutely drive me crazy. I know I'm not alone in that thought, but he's also the one guy in the movie. I don't know about you, but I rarely see, whether it's going to a Christmas party or seeing pictures from a Christmas party where people are dressing up. There's always at least one person
Yep. There's
that's
always
dressed
one.
up like cousin Eddie.
And
You
honestly,
know,
like here in Buffalo, there's been at least like I've seen like at least two or three houses that have a cousin Eddie in the front yard, like
yeah,
dressed up. And like one of them even has like a camper like in the front yard, like with a cousin Eddie standing beside it.
yeah. I mean, the character is obviously iconic.
Mhm.
Just because I mean, the character in itself is just so outlandish, and gets a lot of attention for a lot of good reasons. But it's still gonna be my dud. Like I said, not because of the performance, just that type of person in real life just really irks me.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was easy to root against him, or not like him, because so he played the part well.
All
So
right.
yeah.
Well, what kind of weird question you got for me this week?
All right, this one's not really going to be so much weird. Taking at least a 1 week break from weird questions, but I can't remember if we've had this conversation before. I know we haven't on the podcast, but a popular gift for men at Christmas is obviously cologne. I want to know Parker's like go-to colognes, and whether it's changed as you've gotten older. What is it currently?
Chrome by Azaro. It's been Chrome by Azaro for as long as eh, for I'll switch it up every once in a while, but like yeah, like my go-to scent is like Chrome by Azaro. Um I
No,
like
I'm not familiar with that one at all for some
yeah,
reason.
it's not I don't know, it's like a fresh um citrusy woodsy type scent. It's really hard to describe,
Okay.
but
Yeah,
uh I
I'm
love it.
googling it now, and it kind of gives me like a cool water vibe,
That would be a good like
ju-
if you can
just from
imagine
the
kind of
look
like
of
that.
it.
Yeah. It doesn't smell like cool water, no. It's, I don't know, it's really hard to I guess CK1, if you've ever smelled CK1, it's very similar to that, uh, kind of a smell.
Nice. So that one does a job for you, huh?
Yep.
Gotcha.
What about you, man? What's your fragrance?
So
Parfum de Jeff.
there's a there's a couple of different angles I go with this. Um, my primary angle is I just tell my wife, like, buy whatever does it for you. Because ultimately that's what it's all about. If you find anything that's going to increase my chances, buy that. And so it's probably been a couple years. I mean, you know how cologne is. I mean, it can last forever.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it's been at least a couple of Christmases, if not more, since she last bought me cologne, and she went with Dracar,
Okay.
which I don't know how popular it is nowadays. I know it was like really popular, like when I was growing up, at least in the late '80s,
Yeah.
early '90s. So I don't know if I doubt it's still that popular, but that's what she loved. So that's what she got. As far as me personally, I don't know if you've heard of this one, maybe you have. But the one I personally like, and also the one you ever wear, and maybe this happens with the Chrome Mazzaro, but have you ever wore something like that where you just constantly get comments about it? You get the
Oh,
most
yeah.
compliments
Yeah,
and
that's one reason why I wear that is because it's not very popular. So like, and it smells. People like the way it smells. So like, and it's not a very strong smell. So I get lots of compliments on it all the
okay.
time.
So for like, I rarely get comments when I wear a Dracar,
Mhm.
which again I'm okay with. That's what Steph likes. Um, but my personal choice and the one that I've always, because I started wearing this probably in high school, but it's Aspen.
Mhm.
It's not one of the expensive ones. I mean, you can probably get it for like 15, $20 at like Walmart, Target, or
Yeah.
wherever. So it's one of the cheaper ones, but which you had mentioned kind of the woodsy type thing.
Mhm.
I would kind of describe this one a little similar, which is why it's called Aspen. It's kind of got the pictures of the mountains or whatnot. So just kind of a woodsy nature type deal. But it is the one, and there's other ones I'll wear every once in a while, but it's always the one I've gotten the most comments from people. But of course, I wear Dracar most of the time because she's the boss. But and I'm about to make a confession. I don't even know I should do this or not, but it's no secret I'm a Christmas junkie. I've got a cologne that smells just like Christmas tree. Smells like Fraser fur, and I will occasionally wear it during this time of year.
Oh my gosh.
I know I got problems.
Just a little bit, but it's all good. I'm not mad at you.
If
Um
anybody wants to donate towards my therapy to get help with this Christmas itis, feel free to do so.
Oh my gosh. All right. So next month, our theme is going to be redudes and reboots. So anything that are, remakes or reboots, that's going to fall under that category. And the first one's going to be my pick, and I am going to pick Matilda the musical. If you have it, if this does drop on Christmas Day, it just came out today. As we record this, we could not have possibly watched this film. I don't think it's released in the States. It might be in theaters. I don't know, but
So
it's
this is a
definitely
brand
not
new one.
streaming. Yes, this is brand
Okay.
new. It's Matilda the musical. It's a remake of, I guess technically it's a remake of I'm gonna consider it a remake of the film. I don't even care. It's a book also, but um it's already been made. So guess what? It's being remade. So it's a remake. So therefore, and I love musicals. Um, so that's me. Like where you get the romantic things and the romantic comedies, that's where I come in. I come in on the musicals. Like I love musicals.
Now, see,
And
I
I'm
love musicals
stoked.
too.
So,
So I'm a huge fan. Now I haven't always been a huge fan of musicals. I used
oh,
to
I
be
have.
like,
I've always loved musicals, man. Always, always, always.
so my journey with musicals started probably late high school. So I was probably like 17, 18, 19, somewhere in there. And the girl I was dating at the time, her brother won tickets to see like West Side Story.
Mhm.
So of course I didn't know anything about it. I never been to a musical. I'm sure I saw tidbits on TV and it was like, I was just more of the average, go to the movie theater, watch an action flick, Rocky, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so we go to the big city, which at the time was Raleigh, North Carolina, and me and my girlfriend, her brother, and we brought some other friend because he won 4 tickets. And dude, I was blown away. I
Mhm.
guess not only seeing it live, but just seeing the story unfold, just the talent with the singing, the dancing, and from that day, I mean, we watched tons of musicals. I mean, whether it's in person or um I think the last one we saw was Hamilton. We got to see Hamilton,
Yeah.
which was of course, we obviously saw it first on Disney, but got to see it live. But yeah, just there's so many good ones I haven't seen yet either. But yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm a huge musical fan.
Yeah, see, my musical introduction was definitely, like, from the jump, man, like, Disney. Like, Disney films just primed me to become, like, a musical lover, like, growing up. Just never grew out of that. So, thank God I didn't. So next week we will be watching Matilda the musical. Please join us for that. Jeff, do you have anything else that you would like to say or share with anybody before we bid adieus?
All right, so you hit on this really good last week, as far as mental health. Of course, everybody that's pays any attention to what's going on in the world saw the sad news with Twitch. Stephen Boss, popular dancer, he obviously got really popular being a DJ and dancer on the Ellen Show, and you're just seeing this play out more and more and more, where you see the person on social media or you see them on TV, and all you can think of is, wow, they got the picture perfect life, whether it's their career, happily married, kids, wealthy, all of that. And thinking about it logically, it just never makes sense. And one thing I always tell people when it comes to mental health doesn't follow any kind of logic. And that's where I think there's a big misunderstanding with people who've never wrestled with mental health is that's all they know to do is to think logically.
Yeah.
And you'll never have any open mind or any understanding of what mental health is and the challenges and the stuff that people face because unfortunately it doesn't follow logic because you look at someone like Twitch and logically it makes no sense that he was wrestling with these demons and made the choice that he did. So like you said last week, people please reach out. By now I think everybody should know you're not alone. There's this disease does not discriminate against anybody,
Oh,
no,
absolutely not.
no matter your culture, your background, your race, gender, sexual identity, whatever. It could attack anybody. So being successful in life, being happy in life, doesn't guarantee you anything when it comes to mental health struggles. So please reach out, whether it's through us, through our platform, or I know there's all kinds of resources now where they one good thing over the last 5-10 years that they've making it easier for people to have access to resources to get that help. So it's so important, and I'd love to see the day to where we're not having to constantly see these things happen, especially with people that from a logical standpoint. You're just like, I just can't believe it. Just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, although this time of year is, it's supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, and it is for a lot of people. It's also the hardest time of year for a lot of people for various reasons. So we have to understand that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I struggle with mental health issues. So yeah, I totally relate to everything that you just said. And I can say that it doesn't always follow a rhyme or reason even to the people going through it. So yeah, like if you just feel any type of something's wrong or you just feel like you're the slightest bit lonely, yeah, just reach out. Reach out to somebody for real. You never know what it can do. It can turn your whole day around, it can turn your whole week around, it might even turn your whole life around. Um, so yeah, just don't keep it to yourself. That's the most important thing. Um, but Jeff, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate everything you do. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Um, Merry Christmas to everybody and happy holidays. And thanks everybody so much for listening. Uh, we will catch you. I think the next episode we'll see you next year. We'll be those lame older dudes. We'll see you next year. Um, Jeff, anything else before I
I
do the outro?
think that does it. Like you said, I hope everybody has, awesome holidays, great Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever it is you celebrate this time of year. I just hope you're able to hang out with some friends or family, and just please treasure that time with other people that are important to you. And so, yeah.
Happy Festivus for the rest of us. All right. Well, thank you, Jeff, and thank you so much for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. 5 stars in a review really do help these dudes out. Even if you just want to give your grade on how I did for this episode, you could do that. Just make sure that you give us 5 stars when you do so. That really does help these two dudes out. Links to our Patreon and our socials are in the show notes. So if you're curious about what we look like or what our TikToks are, you can find that down there. Thanks again. And remember, it's shitting rocks, not shitting bricks.
Peace out. Are you buffering?
Yeah, I'm buffering.